Hello, Anja, and welcome. I'm so glad to host you on my YouTube channel, Book Knjiga. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, and thank you for inviting me.
So your last year was pretty busy, right? Not just because of your book, but also because of the EUPL award and many events. How is it now? Are you a little less occupied with everything?
Yes, the last year it was pretty busy because of the prize. There was a lot of presentation and interviews, and this year began more quietly, which is good for me because so I have the time to write my new book.
Oh, great. We'll talk about it a little later. So tell us a little about how it was to be one of the winners. How was the event in Belgium? Were you there in person, right?
Yes, I was there in person. It was a great experience, not only because it was my first time in Brussels, but also because I met so many nice people. I was there for 3 days, and they were pretty busy. We had a lot going on. As soon as I arrived, I had a presentation at the university, ULB, in Brussels, where I was invited by Ivana Petric-Lasnik. She's a professor of Slovene language there. So I met her students who are learning Slovene language, which it was very nice. The next day we had all the winners. We had a workshop where we received some useful information, but also we had the time to meet each other a little more and exchange our experiences. And in the evening, it was of course the ceremony at Flagey. It was very nice. And I also met after the ceremony many Slovenians who live in Brussels, but also in Luxembourg. And I have to say that I felt somehow like I was at home because they were all so nice. And the third day, I went to Cultural Creative Corner in Brussels. Tina Čeh, a Slovenian who lives in Brussels for many years, she invited me there. And I had a workshop of creative writing with Slovenians who live in Brussels. And afterwards, we also talked about my book and writing. It was a really nice evening.
Oh, that sounds like a great experience. In 2017, you have published your first novel, Slovene, and your first book of short stories was published in 2015. Now that you have 2 books of short stories with your last book, Čebelja, družina, what would you say it's easier to write? It's different. Is your process different in writing a novel or writing short stories? Does it maybe take less time to write short stories?
Well, of course, I would say that write a short story is easier for me, but of course, over the time, you put much less time in writing a short story, but also because I have much more experience in it. Since I decided that I want to write professionally, I wrote many short stories, and till now I wrote only 1 novel. The second I'm writing right now. It is still in process. And yes, it is a different process. For me, writing a short story is like this little piece of art that I can hold in my hand. I see it like this. On the other hand, writing a novel, it takes a much more effort and time and energy. And basically, you live with this text. I mean the text even when I'm far away from my computer. I constantly think and rethink the things in my novel, and I think about the protagonists and so on. So yeah, definitely it is different process, but I have to say that if you would ask me which I prefer, I can't say. I like it both.
It's like children, right?
Yes.
So after the Čebelja družina was published, the Bee family, of course, everyone was excited about you writing short stories about Slovenian traditions, problems, families, and ties. Why do you think is that so? Are there not many short stories about Slovenians? These themes happen to be so universal also to other readers, not just Slovene, right?
Mm-hmm. I was, of course, very happy and excited that my book was so well received. Maybe this is because there is something in these traditions and these rituals that attracts people. It surely attracted me. This is why I decided that I want to write a collection of short stories about ancient customs and rituals. I think in this time, in this digital era, where are so many informations, I think we are losing in a way this link with our past and our ancestors, and also the nature and something genuine. And I think that these customs and rituals in a way help us to preserve this link. I think this is important. In a way, we don't lose ourselves if we preserve these things.
So now that our traditional day of mask post is just behind us, you're also writing about it in one of your stories in Čebelja družina. What is it that you are so inspired by our traditions? You already answered to these questions too.
Yeah. Basically, when I decided that I want to write this collection of short stories, I immediately knew that I want to write one story about Pust or Carnival. I always was attracted to masks and this mysteriousness about them, but I didn't want to write in these stories something that is very obvious, like celebration and festivity and things like that. But I wanted to write about something that is not talked maybe so much. I know many people who are afraid maybe of the masks, and this was very interesting for me. So I chose this path when I decided to write the story Pust, which talks about this man who is afraid of these masks and these men who are around him. And I knew that I wanted in this book to be every of these short stories, I wanted in them like this darker atmosphere. So I basically wanted to select these rituals or customs that are a bit more dark, a bit more mysterious, that maybe talk also about these topics that in society maybe are not talked enough, like death or fear maybe. And in this way, I think Čebelja družina or Bee family is not even so different from my first book, Zeleni Frutel, where I also write about these more difficult topics. But in Bee family, I decided that I want to wrap all of this in these customs and rituals, and in a way, these customs also dictate the stories of my book.
Yeah, I really liked your dark atmosphere because it adds something to the stories. So,
thank you.
Do you think these themes will be with you through your next writing? You're currently working on something, right? You said before.
Yes, I'm writing on a novel, but this novel doesn't have anything to do with these traditions. But I have to say that yes, these customs and traditions are very interesting to me, and I won't say I won't write about them anymore, because definitely there's a lot of material. There is a lot of customs that basically, since I wrote Bee family, I'm paying more attention when I hear about an interesting custom. Some time ago, I watched a movie, Piccolo Corpo, or Little Body, of the Italian director Laura Samani. This movie talks about this custom when women who gave birth to dead children have in early 1900s. I'm very interested in customs in which women play the main role. So I think that I will write about something like that in the future, but as I said, right now I'm working on my novel, which basically talks about different themes.
Okay. Can you give us a little sneak peek, or is it a secret?
It is a secret because I don't like to talk about my work until it's finished.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what else is there that inspires you? Do you have your creative process? Do you maybe do walks, yoga, or watching movies, reading other books?
Yes, actually all of these things help me: walks in the nature, reading books a lot, watching movies, going to theater. During the lockdown, where the theaters and movies and were closed and there were no literary events, I felt like I'm starving, because all of these things in a way helped me to develop ideas, to think about the things that are interesting to me. For example, when I'm in a theater, when I am watching a play, maybe I can see a problem of which I thought about in a different point of view. Or when I'm watching a movie, I see a scene that affects me a lot and I want to write a story about it. So when all of this is taken away from a person, I think there is like a desert around him. So all of these things inspire me and in a way help me to, yes, to write and to create.
Do you have maybe favorite authors or books?
Yes, I have a few authors who I like very much. Lately, I am reading mainly female writers. I'm very interested in how they are experiencing the world and the society and relations, etc. So one of them is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, who is coming in Slovenia for the first time this year at Fabula Festival. I encountered her books during my studies, and I also wrote a thesis about female protagonists of her books. So for some time, I basically lived with her books, and I like her writing very much. So I'm very excited that now I will be able to see her in live. The other author who I like very much is Elena Ferrante. Her writing, her books about these two best friends, Lenu and Lila, basically I found out a different way of writing, not only about women, but also about the world. So I absolutely love her writing. Yeah, and the third one, she is not translated in Slovene language yet. This is a Norwegian author, Klara Hveberg. This year was translated her novel in English. The title is Linear Loneliness Slowly Against Mine. And in this book, she demonstrates so well how much in common they have poetry and mathematics. And I absolutely loved this book. I also met Klara 3 years ago at First Novel Festival at Budapest. And I really hope that it will be one day translated also in Slovenian language.
So are these three women, and they're writing like, they write some book that you read and say to yourself, wow, this is something I would want to have written, or wow, this is something I would like to write? Because that happened to me with Ferrante.
Yes, of course. In each of these books, I found out something that absolutely fascinated me. And yes, of course, you want to steal, in a way, something from each of these books. And but in a way, yes, it also helps you to develop your own writing. So I think reading is very important.
And I think this is the question they ask you the most. Do you have any advice to writers on the beginning on their writing career? Especially for the short stories, maybe.
Yeah. I would say read, and then write. In the past, I had some workshops of creative writing with young adults and teenagers. And all these young people wanted so badly to write, but none of them wanted to read very much. And I feel this is a shame in a way, because every writer, you develop yourself through reading first. So then it comes the time to start writing. So yeah, read and then write.
Of course. And I see in the backwards that you have many books. So for the last question, which books would you recommend to my followers of my blog and watchers of this video conversation?
I basically already mentioned some of them. I would recommend Lean Your Loneliness Slowly Against Mine, or by Clara Hreberg, this Norwegian writer. And then, of course, Half of the Yellow Sun of Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Nigerian author who is coming to Slovenia. This novel is absolutely stunning. I read it many times and I definitely recommend it.
I have one question in mind. So, do you choose
how the stories
how the stories are following each other? Do you choose that, or okay? Yes. And how do you like your cover of the book?
I like it very much, although some people criticized it. They said to me that it's a little too happy, and then the stories are a bit more dark. So that is not very good cover.
Okay, maybe, but the honey is yellow, so
yeah. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. No? Okay. So thank you, Anja, for this conversation. I wish you all the luck with your writing and many creative processes. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Ushka, for conversation, and have a nice day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.